Hi, this is Sean. Welcome to GuitarReferenceGuide.com. Today we're going to learn a little bit about the modes, what they are, how to use them, how to apply them. And we're going to do the key of C and the key of G. So starting with the key of C, the modes are based on the major scale. We're going to start with the closed position major scale at the 3rd fret. It's going to look like this. We're going to do 2 octaves. So the notes would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then I just repeat that, 2nd octave. So the first mode is what I just played. And this would be called the Ionian mode. The Ionian mode is just a major scale. It's just another way to say the C major scale. And the Ionian mode would be playing from C to C. Now, the second mode is called the Dorian mode, and that starts from the 2nd degree of the major scale. So that would start from the 2, but everything stays the same. It's the same scale, but now instead of starting from C, we start from D. And we end on D. And that'll be the Dorian mode. The next mode would be the Phrygian mode, and that would start from the 3rd note of the major scale, the 3rd degree, and we would end on E. And the 4th mode would start from F and end on F. That would be the Lydian mode. The 5th mode would be the Mixolydian mode, and that starts from the G and ends on the G. It's the 5th degree of the C major scale. Mixolydian mode. The 6th mode would be the Aeolian mode, and that starts on the 6th degree and starts on A, ends on A. This would be also our relative minor, our natural minor scale. Then the last mode would be the Locrian mode, and that would start on my B and start on the 7 and end on my B. And then we would be back to where we started, at our Ionian mode, starting on C and ending on C. So the 1 mode is Ionian, the 2 mode is Dorian, minor, the 3 mode is Phrygian, that's also minor, 4 mode is Lydian, that's major, 5th mode is Mixolydian, that's major or dominant 7. 6th mode is Aeolian or minor. 7th mode is Locrian. And that would be diminished or minor or half diminished. And then we're back to where we started at the major. Ionian. So a great exercise for the modes is to start ascending on the 1 mode and then descending on the 2 mode. Ascending, descending. Refer to the PDF. This is a really good exercise. We basically ascend on the 1st mode, then descend on the next mode, and go through all 7 of the modes within the major scale. So essentially, the modes are just the different starting and ending points of the notes within the major scale. So in time, the exercise would sound like this. So in the key of G, it would sound like this. Down backwards. Now, since we've gone through the modes and we've looked at the different starting and ending points of each of those major scales, the C major scale and the G major scale, the most important thing to understand with respect to the modes is how to use them and how to apply them to songs, chord progressions, for writing purposes. So each one of the notes within the major scale corresponds to a chord and a tonality. So the first note in the major scale represents a major chord, or a major 7 chord, if we're talking about 7 chords. The second note of the major scale corresponds to a minor chord. The 7 chord would be the D minor 7, that would be my 2 chord. The 3 chord would be an E minor chord, minor tonality, or E minor 7 chord, if we're talking about 7 chords. The 4 would be an F major chord, or an F major 7 chord, if we're talking about 7 chord. Then the 5 would be G, or G dominant 7. 6 would be A minor, or A minor 7. The 7 would be B diminished, or B minor 7 flat 5 half diminished, if we're talking about the 7 chord. And then we're back to where we started at C. So if I played the harmonized major scale through those chords in time, it would represent the same scale we were playing through. It would sound like this. So my 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7 chord, and back to my 1 chord. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So each one of those chords corresponds to each one of those modes we just learned. So for example, the 2 chord in the key of C is D minor, or D minor 7. So guess what mode you would use? You would use the 2. You would use the Dorian mode, which is just C major scale, starting from the 2nd and ending on the D. And that would represent the D minor 7 chord, or D minor chord. Then the 3 would be my E. So if you played the C major scale, you started on the E note, and ended on E note, the 3rd degree, that would represent the E minor chord, etc. So 4 would be F, F chord, 5 would be G, G7, and then 6 would be from, and then that would be the A minor, relative minor, and then the 7 would be the B, diminished, or minor 7 flat 5. And then back to where we started. So if you had a chord progression that say went 2, that would be my D minor to 5 to 1. Well, what modes would you use to solo? Well, sure, you could just play the C major scale and it all work great. But if you were to want to be more specific about what you're trying to say when you're soloing, you would want to play the Dorian mode for the 2 chord, the Mixolydian, or the 5, for the dominant 7 chord, and then you'd be back to the 1. So if I was to play through this chord progression, that's a D minor to C major 7. Now I'm going to play solo using modes. So we have D, G, C. Do that again. So we start with Dorian, Mixolydian, Ionian, the 1. So we have the 2, 5, 1. So using the modes to solo in a more detailed way is, the main purpose of it. So each one of those modes corresponds to each one of those chords, and you can also, as long as the tonality is the same, you can change it up. For example, if you were playing a song and there was you were in the key of C and it was on the 2 chord, yeah, you could play an A minor or a D Dorian mode. That would be probably the best choice, but a regular Aeolian mode from there, or Phrygian mode, because they're both of a minor tonality, would also work, but there would be a couple of notes here and there that would give it not quite as, a little more tension based. So that is the modes. Refer to the PDF. PDF would be very helpful. Takes you through the exercise. It also takes you through the exercises we did, and it'll also shows you a breakdown of the chords and what the modes are. So a great exercise would be to go through 2-5-1 progression, in key of C, and play through the proper modes. Start with the 2, go to the 5, go to the 1. Then go to the next key, then do the circle of fifths, then go to the key of G, which would be A minor 7, D dominant 7, to G, which would be the 1. So then we would have the 2, which would be the Dorian mode of G, which would be just G major scale starting on 2. Then we would go to D, Mixolydian, the 5, and then we would be at the 1 chord, the G. So if I was to just play that using modes, you can hear the chords in the single notes that I'm playing, because that's what they reference. Another great thing to do would be when you're playing a song, look at the chords in the song and figure out, well, what chord is this in the song? Is this the 4 chord? Is this the 5 chord? What mode do I use over the song, and refer to the chart and try and figure that out. So I hope you enjoyed this section of modal applications at guitarreferenceguide.com.